funded in a non-CR way. Secondly, the Speaker now recommended that our junior senator from Alabama, Katie Britt, do the reply to the President tomorrow night. We think she is particularly effective to make the points that many Americans are concerned about, and we're pretty excited to have her do the response to President Biden.
Well, we are finally, and I emphasize finally, turning to the appropriations process around here. The House will send over a minibus that includes 6 individual appropriation bills, and you know, remember, the fiscal year started October 1st. We are well into this fiscal year and still trying to fund the government. Honestly, that is something that just hasn't been a priority for Senator Schumer. These appropriation bills, to the credit of Senator Collins, who's the vice chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and members of the Senate Appropriations Committee, reported out of that committee all these bills by the end of July. By the end of July. And we're finally getting some of these and a chance to vote on them on the floor. And if you look at the process since then, we succeeded in getting 3 of those bills on the floor in the month of November. And it's been now 4 months since we had any activity on the appropriations bills around here. But what I would point out is when we did have those on the floor in November, we had an open amendment process, and we were able to get 40 amendments considered on those 3 bills. And when people have input around here, when they have a voice in lawmaking and actually some input into the bills that are being produced by the Senate, you get a lot better outcome. And we had a couple of amendments that were adopted that are good conservative wins. One of them, J.D. Vance's amendment, prohibits mask mandates on public transportation. There was another amendment that was offered by Senator Kennedy that protects the Second Amendment rights for veterans. My point simply is when you have an appropriations process where the bills get reported out of the committee, but brought up on the floor, open up the amendment process, you get a better outcome and a better result. Not only do people feel more invested in that process, but you get better bills because you get the representation of people from all across this country on both sides of the political aisle. And a point I would simply make is this has got to change in the future. We have to do a better job on the appropriations process around here and the way we go about funding our government.
Well, mark my words, tomorrow night will be Joe Biden's last State of the Union address, and that's because the American people are not going to invite him back to give another one next year. And that's because on issue after issue that the American people care about, Joe Biden has failed the American people. People are worn out, and they're worried for themselves and their families. They understand that their lives have been made worse by Joe Biden and the Democrats. People are begging for solutions. And what we're likely to hear is the president bragging about Bidenomics and blaming others for the crisis that he has created at the border. Look, it is clear what American people are concerned about. It's high grocery prices that are eating into paychecks. It's 9 million illegal immigrants who have come here since Joe Biden has gone to the White House. Innocent Americans murdered by illegal immigrants. And then on energy, Joe Biden has surrendered America's energy strength, handed it over, Russia, Iran, and China. Around the world, our friends don't trust us, our enemies don't fear us. Joe Biden has made America weak. Republicans have serious and significant solutions to the problems we face, and tomorrow you're going to hear Katie Britt address those in her response to the president. But it's secure the border. It's stop this wasteful Washington spending. It's unleash American energy. And that's why the State of the Union tomorrow by Joe Biden will be his last.
Tomorrow, before we hear from Joe Biden on the state of our country, he should take a look around and actually see what truly is going on in the state of our great union, the United States of America. If you look what has happened during Joe Biden's time in office over the course of the last 3 years, We have an open border situation where we have interdicted drugs, fentanyl flooding into our communities. We have seen terrorists that have come across the border and been interdicted. We have Bidenflation, which has hurt our families back home. You know, I talk to my neighbors, the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, it's through the roof since he took office. If you look across the Middle East, and the world is on fire right now, our service members are sitting ducks in the Middle East as they're being attacked by the Houthis. And folks, we still have 6 Americans that are being held by Hamas. These are Americans, and their families don't even know whether they're dead or they're alive. All of this has happened under Joe Biden's watch, with no solutions in sight. We have no national security strategy. We have no budget. And yet, the president is coming to address Congress. So I would just ask, Mr. President, get your priorities straight. Protect this nation, protect our people. Get serious about this nation before you deliver an address to the Congress.
Good afternoon. I'm sure the leader will not like this, but I would like to take a moment to thank him for his leadership. I know he's not going anywhere for a while, but we learned this from the last time we saw each other. I also know, Mr. Leader, that you and Elaine have been going through a tough time, and you have our thoughts with you always as you're navigating this. We think about you daily. But even in the midst of his personal challenges, he's remained a strong leader that has stuck by his conservative principles. And as his next-door neighbor in West Virginia, there is no better friend of coal than Mitch McConnell, and I thank you for that. And always, he named his book The Long Game. Why is that? Because he always looks at the long game. But the one thing he has exceedingly led us through, and I think will have a legacy through this country, is his respect for the rule of law and the judicial system. As we saw on Monday, we saw the unanimous decision by the Supreme Court to allow President Trump to remain on the ballot in Colorado, and they voted last night. Of course, who chooses who's going to be on the ballot? The people. Who chooses who's going to be the leader? The people. Not activists, not office holders who don't like a particular candidate during one season or the other, but the voters. And the Supreme Court voted 9-0 to back up that principle. One of the principles the leader has served his entire service in respecting, and the one we as voters in America should respect as well.
We don't need an hour-and-a-half long speech tomorrow night to know what the State of the Union is. Ask the American people. ABC reported 76% of the American people believe the country is on the wrong track. Because under Joe Biden's failed leadership, the State of the Union right now is chaos, as is the state of the world. Under Joe Biden, our southern border is wide open, and the latest news that just has come out in the last 48 hours is absurd. On top of the record number of illegal immigrants coming across the border, we've now found out the Biden administration was secretly transporting over 300,000 illegal migrants on planes to 43 different cities. You can see the story right here. It talks about it. Meanwhile, we've got a record number of illegal immigrants on the FBI terror watch list who are entering our country. And this additional news that came out that the president and the czar of the border, the vice president, never even spoke with the chief of Border Patrol, Raul Ortiz. Many of us who have visited the southern border have spoken with Chief Ortiz. I met with him in 2019. He's a devoted public servant dedicated to protecting our country. So Thursday night, when Joe Biden tells us he's trying to tell America that he's serious about the border, all I got to say is, come on, man. Because under Joe Biden, American families can barely afford to keep food on the table, gas tanks full, price is up 18% since he took office. Wasteful spending continues. And sadly, under Joe Biden's weaknesses, our enemies are emboldened. The world's less safe. Look back on that horrible Afghanistan withdrawal. Look at that embarrassing Chinese spy balloon that came right over my state of Montana, over our ICBM silos. Look at the war in Ukraine and the war in the Middle East. Under Joe Biden, the state of our union is dire. And no amount of sugarcoating he'll try tomorrow night can convince the American people otherwise.
Mr. Leader, how do you reconcile your Trump endorsement with the fact that you called him practically and morally responsible for January 6th, and the fact that he insulted you and your wife repeatedly?
On February the 25th, 2021, shortly after the attack on the Capitol, I was asked a similar question, and I said I would support the nominee for president even if it were the former president.
Leader McConnell, in April of last year, you indicated, and you didn't really directly answer the question as to whether or not you were comfortable with Mr. Trump if he was in the middle of criminal trials and indictments, he was the nominee. I presume that means you're comfortable with him.
I don't have anything to add to what I just said. I said in February of 2021, shortly after the attack on the Capitol, that I would support President Trump if he were the nominee of our party, and he obviously is going to be the nominee of our party. Alex?
Leader McConnell, most of your Republican colleagues would say you had a very effective 17 years as Republican leader. What do you think about this new idea of putting term limits on the Senate Republican leader?
Well, we have term limits now. They're called elections. And I had a contest myself during my last election as leader. I think the conference ought to be able to be free to choose whoever. There's no limit on the speaker or the other House leaders. That won't be my decision to make, but I think it's totally inappropriate.
Will you endorse a candidate in the leadership race to succeed you?
No, I'm not. Okay.
Thank you, Tony.